welcome to our second recording of our Legacy Wednesday matchups. We have here Lachlan Saunders.
How you doing?
And we have Brandon Owen.
Addie.
And Brandon Owen is also one of the sort of main organisers with Sasha, who is currently not with us at the moment. I see the game is already kind of starting right now, so let's get straight into it. We have Nick Fennell versus Chris Addie. And it looks like Nick's gone straight into it, and he's playing a Wizard's Tribal deck that I believe he made himself. Chris Addie's got the regular Pox list. Lachlan, can you tell us a bit more about Pox for people who don't know?
So Pox is a mono black control deck. It aims to use spells like Sinkhole, destroy target land, Smallpox, which is each player loses a life, discards a card, sacks a creature, and sacks a land for black, to kind of shred your opponent's hand and mana base, so they can't really do anything. And you slowly win the game with a Cursed Scroll, which is a 1-mana artifact that has 3 tap, name a card, reveal a card from your hand. If you reveal the named card, you deal 2 damage to target creature or player. So it uses stuff like Liliana with a Veil, has Thoughtseize, Hymn to Turak, Dark Rituals to kind of power out those sinkholes, and Smallpox is pretty early. The name comes from back when the deck actually played a card called Pox, which is black sorcery. Each player sacrifices, loses 1/3 of their lands, creatures, cards in hand, and life, I think. But nowadays it just plays Smallpox because it's just a little bit more efficient and it kind of achieves the goal you want to achieve. Now, the important thing to note here is Nick has actually started off with an Aether Vial, which is actually a huge problem for Pox, because being mono black, you can't really get rid of an artifact, and Nick being able to have access to that Aether Vial early on means that the wastelands and the Smallpoxes and the sinkholes aren't going to be as effective as disrupting the mana base, because you can just tap that and pop a creature straight into play.
That's it. So I've played a couple of matches with Nick while he was practicing with this deck, and I found that even though it's pretty heavy as a control deck, it bringing in things like Spell Pierce was essentially useless because it was all completely based on his Aether Vials and just having his creatures in, and the wizards that tap other wizards, Patron Wizards. So
yeah,
it was very hard to get rid of once he got started.
Yeah, it's definitely a very synergy-driven kind of mid-range deck.
Chris is going pretty deep in the land destruction. I don't know if that's particularly effective. I mean, it may just be the only thing he has in hand, given that it's pretty much all the deck does.
Definitely.
I feel like he'd probably be hoping for something more like a Hymn to Turak here, or
yeah, you can see an Innocent Blood lurking in his hand, ready to take out that Harboring of the Tides usually. One of the interesting things about this matchup is that Patron Wizard can actually be pretty effective in kind of protecting against getting Sinkhole and getting Smallpox, because the thing about the Pox's game plan with those Smallpoxes is actually like it's pretty simultaneous. They're going to lose a lot of lands, and the wastelands, it's still a 1-for-1 trade. So often mana can be kind of tight with these decks.
Okay. What do we know? Oh, it's Aether Vials on 3 now, so we can expect to see. Oh, there we go.
The click, yeah, and that's going to be very useful for Chris, for Nick, being able to see what's happening on Chris's side and kind of just maybe take a card, maybe don't. It looks like Chris has
quite a lot of
2
mana.
Swamps, an Urborg, a Dark Ritual, and Nether Spirit. Putting that Nether Spirit on the bottom of the library there kind of takes away one of Chris's main win conditions, though he does have a Mistress Factory in play, which is definitely going to be quite effective.
It's actually probably worth noting that Nick is playing a Magus of the Moon main board, and he's kind of only casting that off Cavern of Souls or Aether Vial, single volcanic island, but it's not relevant outside of the Mishra's Factories, but it's something that might.
I mean, if Nick can kind of get in a place where he can get that Magus into play and kind of protect it, it does shut off one of Chris's main win conditions, which are those Mishra's Factories there.
Is Mishra's Factory the only benefit of having an Urborg? Because I thought just
basically, yeah. Urborg allows your wastelands and your mistress factories to be able to cast as Hymn to Turax.
Sure.
And one of the unusual things about Urborg as a card is that most of the time it sees the majority of playing mono black decks to just let them be a little bit greedy with their mana base and play those powerful colorless lands. Second Aether Vial coming.
It's actually seems pretty big. He's getting stuck on lands, and there's plenty of 1 and 2 drops in the deck that he's probably hoping to get down.
Definitely, yeah.
So you're having 2 Aether Vials. He'll stay at 3 and then possibly go to 2 with the second one because of I believe how much is Patron Wizard?
Patron Wizard is blue.
Patron Wizard is blue.
So
sure. So maybe a Curse Catcher as well, leaving it at 1.
Ooh.
Oh, here we go.
Here comes Magus of the Moon. We were just talking about it, and here it comes to kind of put those mistress factories in their place.
I believe this is after he's activated them too. It's pretty.
Yeah. Unfortunately, yeah, they are still going to be creatures, even though they're mountains. Maybe responding to those activations would have been even then. Set up with some Mishra's mountains coming at you.
I think it's probably not incorrect, right? Because after the Magus, he won't be able to activate it again, right?
Honestly, maybe he should have done that in his own time. But then he does fall victim to maybe getting smallpox or something of that nature.
Yeah,
exactly. I think safely just like popping that Magus into play in your own turn might have been a more effective strategy.
Sure. And we see Chris with a bunch of lands and not much to do with it at this point.
No, he's got that Dark Ritual, so if he does draw an 8-drop next turn, or even a 9-drop, he will be able to cast it. Maybe a Hypnox will come down and take all of the cards in Nick's hand.
And he also has access
honestly,
to
that's what I'm
mana.
hoping for. Here comes Wasteland, which is actually just a mountain.
No, just a mountain.
Oh, here comes the namesake of the deck, Patron Wizard. Now, given how insanely flooded Chris is, I don't think its ability is really going to be that effective. It's tap and untap wizard you control, counter target spell unless the controller pays 1. Yeah, you can see Chris packing up as those Patron Wizards are going to come crash on in for the last few points of damage.
He really needed to get that Patron Wizard out very, very quickly because, I mean, as we saw with Chris's deck, he wouldn't have had a problem with paying 1 or 4 or 5, you know, even for a very small, spell.
Honestly, the deck does actually play Nether Void. You can see Chris citing it out here. Nether Void is an enchantment from Legends. It's a world enchantment, and basically it makes everybody pay 3 extra for their spells. Otherwise, they're countered.
Okay.
From next deck, I don't know what. I'm not sure if he has really any kind of like big sideboard cards that could come in. Maybe he's thinking about bringing Pithing Needle to stop those Mishra's Factory from being animated. It's able to stop Curse Scroll as well as Liliana with Veil.
He might not even know about Curse Scroll to begin with. Because,
yeah, true. He didn't see it in game 1, and if he hasn't played against a Pox strategy before, he'll be kind of unfamiliar with it.
Nick's sideboard is it static? One of is it Staticaster, Meddling Mage, and Megara of Corondor, and then we've got 2 Fluster Storms, 1 Misdirection, 2 Surgical Extractions, 1 Wear and Tear, 1 Grafticus Cage, 2 Pithing Needles, and a Yumizawa's Jitte, and then we've got 2 Rest in Pieces as well.
Having seen the Mishra's Factories, you might be keen to bring in the Wear Tear just to deal with those. Trading 1 for 1 is not.
Yeah. It's not ideal, but if it is important to if he does know about the Curse Scrolls, the Wear Tear is definitely an answer to Curse Scroll as well. And he could also be thinking about maybe Chris's opposing Pithing Needles, because the mono black deck, being mono black, is kind of limited in terms of answers, because it can only use really artifacts and black cards because it can't cast anything else. So given how critical those Aether Vials were in that game, I mean, that's the only reason Nick did anything. It's the only reason he kind of quote unquote cast any spells that game. It was just that Aether Vial on turn 1.
So Pithing Needle would be ideal. We don't actually have Chris Addie's list with us at the moment, but because he didn't end up Ascending, but what does a normal Pox list look
So,
like for sideboards?
I made sure to have a look at what it was sideboarding in. So you can see he thumbed past the toxic deluge. He's not interested in bringing in any wrath effects in this matchup.
Okay.
I think he's just going to rely on Liliana and Innocent Blood and kind of his spot removal to take care of Nick's creatures. He did take out that Nether Void because against an Aether Vial deck, Nether Void isn't really going to be what you're interested in, and he did bring in Picking Needles to stop those Aether Vials.
Okay, sure.
Yeah. I believe we have Nick on a 6, scrying here, and I can see Chris's hand has got that tasty little white-bordered sinkhole there,
Yeah.
ready to blow up one of Nick's lands.
Yeah.
Chris is a big fan of the LD package. Look, Nick is now fully aware that Curse Scroll is A card and B in Chris's deck. So we could definitely see a revisiting of the sideboard in game 3 if we need one.
So I've noticed it looks like Nick boarded in Rest in Peace, which is probably not the best card in this matchup. I mean, the only thing you're ever shutting down is Crucible of Worlds. And
Well, no, Nether Spirit.
oh, Nether Spirit as well, I suppose.
You do lock out Nether Spirit. Oh, we've got a Force of Will coming on that sinkhole.
What did
He
he get out?
is honestly not interested in getting sinkholes. That's not something that he wants to be involved in.
Which is probably a pretty good sign for Chris anyway, because there's no shortage, and as we can see, he's got another sinkhole in his hand, but there's no shortage for him for land destruction.
Yeah, kind of
And
ways
you know
to
he's
blow up.
desperate. Yeah.
And now we see the Rest in Peace coming down. I'm not really sure how effective that's going to be, and you can see Chris kind of like quickly exiling his graveyard as he
Not too worried about it.
shares that opinion.
Yeah. So I'm sorry, I know you did mention it before, but can you explain Curse Rack to me?
Curse Scroll.
Curse
So
Scroll.
Curse Scroll, it's a 1-mana artifact.
Mhm.
Has 3 tap. Choose target creature or player. You name a card in your hand. You reveal a card from your hand, and if it's a name card, you deal 2.
Okay,
so
That
so names.
Grim Lavamancer looking a little bit
a little
lackluster
bit awkward
under that Rest in Peace.
versus Rest in Peace, yeah. And a Grafticus Cage as well. He's
Okay.
not interested in creatures coming into play from the libraries or graveyard, or things being flashbacked. That's something he's definitely not going to allow here.
I think perhaps this was an interesting sideboard choice, considering he saw black. He didn't really see very much besides land destruction
Yeah.
in game 1, so probably just thought, hey, maybe he's got like a reanimation package backup or
Potentially.
something.
It's definitely an unconventional line.
Yeah.
And we can see the Smallpox here coming down, taking out a land, taking out his last land even. So he's just reduced to that Aether Vial. And Chris getting rid of an Instant Blood because he just doesn't need to
Just
get any
doesn't,
creatures because they're not in play.
I think he may have forgotten that Rest in Peace is still in play as his
His
Instant Bloods is in his second exile card.
yeah,
His
it can be
exile card.
tough to kind of keep up with all of the permanents that are currently in play in this game. And Liliana coming down, getting rid of his last card. Now the Curse Scroll is just 3 tap shock because with 1 card in hand, there's a pretty good chance you'll get it right.
Especially considering it kills, I think,
Ooh.
every single one of Nick's creatures, just about.
And now we have Pin Needle, which is going to shut off that Aether Vial. It's really going to shut off any chance Nick has of coming back into this game.
Yeah.
It's actually kind of important to note that he forgot to take up his Aether Vial the first turn after Liliana came down, I think. Well, I guess it's in response to the Pithing Needle. He could have put in that Vendilion Click that he ended
That's
up
actually
discarding.
a Star of Temptation.
Oh, okay, never mind.
So it would have been I think a little too narrow to tick up onto 4, hoping.
Was it?
Yeah, no,
No, it's on 2.
Chris did board in the toxic deluge there, and now you can see the players remembering about that Rest in Peace, getting rid of those cards back into exile. And now this is kind of the slow boa constrictor mode of the Pox deck. It puts you in a vice, it blows up all your lands, it gets rid of your cards in hand, it needles your Aether Vial, and then just crunches you to death with a Curse Scroll, just shocking you, plussing Liliana. Yep.
So I think I saw towards the end of this, either this match or a different match, where it was just a Pox deck, and it just had swamps all through it, and he was just not playing them anymore because he was trying to name swamp with Curse Scroll.
Yep.
So pretty reasonable if you just start bumping up the amount of swamps in your hand. It makes it pretty funny. You see Nick hoping against hopes that somehow the pithing needle might go away and he has 2 ether balls.
I mean, if he did bring in that wear
if he did bring the wear tear, he will be able to take out one of them. But at this point, it's unclear whether he needs to get rid of that curse scroll, because it's a pretty fast clock. You know, it'll finish you off in 10 turns.
Yeah.
And, every single creature Nick plays is just kind of a gain 2 life. And you see Liliana ultimating here, which is basically just remove 6 loyalty, sinkhole you, pretty much. He's just aiming to get rid of some lands here, and I would imagine he would just put, almost all the permanents with those 2 lands and just the planes off to the side. Maybe he wants to get rid of the rest in peace crafting his cage by putting it with the planes, and hoping that Nick is gonna pick the 2 land package, and he just gets to have his Nether Spirit back. But honestly, he's not that concerned.
I don't think he really cares. He
has his win condition in play. The lock is pretty much set up that Nick has to basically deploy everything he draws every single turn. Yeah, you can see, just if you want these bunch of permanents or you want these 2 lands, it's up to you, buddy.
Oh,
now
This
rest in peace, those pile of permanents there. And we can see him
maybe
just
not
reduced
realising
to a plains and a Riptide Laboratory, and I think we'll either get to watch Nick slowly die or we'll see a concession happen here.
It'd be nice if you just scooped out of respect.
I think at a certain point with these pox decks, you just there's a certain point where you just want to pack up your cards. Honestly, there's nothing he could draw here that would get him out of this, especially
with Liliana.
Every creature you play dies, and even if it doesn't die to Curse Scroll, it dies to Liliana. You can see the spinning darkness there in Chris's hand. Actually, the Rest in Peace doing some work. Spinning Darkness is a 6 mana spell that deals 3 damage to target creature, and you gain 3 life. But you can cast it for free by exiling the top 3 black cards of your graveyard. So that Rest in Peace, meaning that Spinning Darkness not really being cast this game. But the alternative is that it didn't matter too much.
Yeah.
And now we see Labisso coming down to make sure that Nick really can't do anything.
It's just kind of an overkill at this point, right? He's just
playing that. Stop kicking him is already dead.
Yeah.
Oh, the second needle for the Robins. Gonna take out that Mutavault. No activating that.
If there was any hope before, which there definitely wasn't, there isn't anymore.
Yeah.
Oh, Nick, I'm sorry.
Oh, he's got
That's
that
alright.
Aetherbolt.
Yep, nice. He only has to get rid of that 1 pithing needle now.
Well,
and he can
it's
start
unclear.
kicking
He might have double named Aetherbolt for value.
Oh, I hope he does.
Yeah. We're gonna see Nick just dead in 2 turns. Even the Curse Scroll is just gonna finish him off.
Can we perhaps see another ulti out of Lily? That would be nice.
I mean, we almost certainly are. Oh, Curse Catcher coming here off the crack of the Flutters and putting him to 3.
Which is good now because he can stop the next casting of a spell by just sacrificing and making payment.
We can see Chris really stretching out the torture by taking care of that Curse Catcher. He doesn't want his smallpox, force spiked. He wants to just blow up the land and move on with his life.
Yeah.
There we go.
He did make it all the way down to 3 before he scoops, so that's good for him.
A valiant effort. He even took a couple points off Chris. That's what really counts in these kind of grindy control games where you just want to take a couple points off your opponent before you eventually concede 20 turns later.
It'll be interesting to see if Nick changes any of his sideboard now that he's seen probably a good 70-80% of Chris's deck.
Yeah, I think we're definitely going to see him looking to bring in wear and tear if he hasn't already.
Yeah, I think I saw him board out at least a Rest in Peace.
I
just
certainly hope
and he did decide to bring in those meddling
impact
mages.
He had on that game is definitely a consideration.
Meddling Mage seems like a pretty difficult card to play against Pox. I mean, they just have so many ways to deal with a single creature.
Honestly, it's just a bear. That's all it is. It's a bear that might mildly inconvenience them because you could sack it to an innocent blood when you have a click and play.
Yeah.
It doesn't block very well versus Mishra's Factory because Mishra's Factory often brings a friend that can give the assembly worker +1/+1. You can see him looking at that Mangaro Corondo. Or is it coming in? Is it coming in? I think it might be. I think it's gone in the in pile. Yeah, you can see those Patron Wizards just sitting in the board where they belong. Those
Maybe he's decided something is slightly better than those 4 standstills.
yeah, perhaps.
Man, yeah.
Standstill versus the Mishra's Factory deck that shreds your hand. Maybe not ideal.
Especially when he himself only has 2 Mutavaults. I mean, the Aether Vials obviously do a lot of work there, but as we see, Chris having none of that with his Pithing Needles.
Now, as the listeners may or not know, Brandon Owen, luckily for us, is a master of Standstill. He's been playing it since even before the card was printed. So, in your estimation, is this a good build for Standstill?
So I've always been a big fan of the sort of, it's hard to call it a tempo deck, but the Aether Vial decks that jam the Standstill for good value. Going turn 1 Aether Vial into turn 2 Standstill is probably one of the best things you can do with the card. I mean,
you can see why he's made that decision, but perhaps in play not.
It's I mean, it's really restricted his mana base in this particular build.
Yeah, Patron Wizard and Mutavault. Although Mutavault is a wizard, they're actually pretty bad friends. They actually disagree on a lot of varied topics.
Yeah, he's certainly going really deep on those Aether Vials and hoping they stick.
Yeah. The putting in the 1 Grim Lavamancer and the 1 Magus of the Moon, I think, was something that he was sort of battling for a long time.
Well,
but,
you do have those Vidalcan Aether Mages which have an ability called Wizard Cycling.
I love Wizard Cycling.
and
Is there any other, sorry, before you go into it, is there any other tribal that has cycling?
Yes, there is Sliver Cycling.
Yeah.
Ooh, hello. Bring back Slivers.
So basically, Tribe X Cycling is you pay 3, discard a copy of the card from your hand, and search your library for any wizard card. So having the Vidalcan Aether Mage in your deck actually incentivizes you to play those one-ofs that can be quite narrow. So having just the 1 Lavamancer and having the 1 Magus of the Moon and the 1 even Mind Sensor here and the 1 Azorius Guild Mage can give him kind of a toolbox strategy that we've seen before in Standard.
Yeah, definitely. He's only playing. Where have we got it here? I think there's only 3 of them. There's only 3 of them in there. I love it. I love Wizard Cycling. I wish they'd do it for every tribe.
Yeah.
And it would make things just a whole lot funnier because it's just.
And the ability on Vidalcan Aether Mage isn't actually irrelevant because it says when it comes into play, return target Sliver to its owner's hand. And
a deck which has been getting played in Legacy
and
recently.
we've seen Meathawks seeing a resurgence because of those new slivers that came out a couple core sets ago, and it does have added kind of synergy with Mutavault. If your opponent's trying to waste your Mutavault, you can vial in that Vidalcan Aether Mage and protect it. You know, like a little bit of kind of a poor man's Teferi's response, if we're being honest.
Yeah.
And we can also see maybe that the Standstill wasn't a very good play against the turn 1 Mishra's Factory that played a Curse Scroll because Chris has the tools to kind of just play without casting a spell for the rest of the game. And the onus is going to be on Nick. He doesn't have an Aether Vial. He's only got 2 Mutavaults down there maybe, and unfortunately Mishra's Factory can just kind of get bigger than a Mutavault, and Mutavault kind of gets destroyed by Curse Scroll. So it looks like Chris is gonna. I can see 3 fresh cards in Chris's future at some point during this game.
Yeah.
Nick definitely broadening in that wear and tear.
Yes, you can see his consideration here of is he gonna tear apart that Curse Scroll, and without red mana it seems unlikely.
That is one of the best parts about the wear tear is that it costs a little bit of red as well, you know. Oh, here we go.
I think Swamp was the name. Yep, he's taken, and the scroll is definitely cursed today.
Yes, I have played this deck against Nick a few times. Surprisingly good against Storm and Tin Fins because paying 1 for everything is not fun.
Yeah, it's incredibly frustrating. I've definitely drafted the Patron Wizard deck in several different cubes,
Yeah.
and kind of when it gets the lock on, it's pretty difficult to beat. In one of the most recent Magical 9 cubes, the Twisted Color Pie cube, as it was referred to, there was actually a mono blue wizard kind of aggro control deck that you could draft, and I definitely force-spiked my fair share of spells.
So pretty interesting in this situation that both players have 2 man lands out, and I mean Chris being the aggressor in the situation, not able to attack with them, given that Nick has 2 mutavaults of his own.
Yep. You can see Chris. Yeah, as you mentioned earlier, Angus, just keeping a swamp in his hand so he can name swamp every time.
Yeah.
Not playing them out, and being able to. Swamp is one of the most popular cards in the deck, so and it's definitely one of the cards in the deck that's easiest to get into your hand.
Mm-hmm. I think. Do you think it's correct though, if you had a swamp in your hand, to keep it in this situation, knowing that once you get one more swamp, you can start curse rolling and sort of hitting him with the mischievous factor again?
I definitely think that's a consideration, but as we see him going to discard here, perhaps just the Nether Spirit was the actual thing that pushed it over the edge.
Yeah.
Because Nether Spirit is a creature that, if it's the only creature in your graveyard, it comes back in your upkeep.
Mm-hmm.
So by going up to hand size and discarding it, he's able to quote unquote cast a creature for free under the standstill, which even furthers his lead here versus this standstill. This standstill has just been criminally terrible for Nick. Honestly, it's cost him so much tempo, and Chris is just able to just play through it. Unfortunately, that Nether Spirit can't attack because it did come into play during the upkeep. So hopefully the players will figure that out, and we'll see an untap of that spirit.
Maybe not.
Oh, no, well, that's unfortunate. Nether Spirit, unlike its brother Nether Shadow, doesn't actually have haste.
We'll send Chris a
Chris is
violation in the mail.
Yeah, I think Chris is definitely going to see some sanctions about this. Maybe
We'll save it up for his next
maybe
game.
we'll just make him take a break from
And here we
the
go.
game for a while. And
Nick finally
deciding that Chris needs some more cards.
Yeah.
I've played a couple of standstills in my day just because they're always around, and it really becomes an emotional thing.
Yeah.
You know, you cast a standstill and then you go, this needs to pop for me.
Yeah.
And you even if 2 or 3 or 4 turns pass and you see your opponent just getting better and better and better, and nothing happening with you, like, you're just not gonna pop it. You're just gonna go, I'll just wait for those 3 cards. I'll just wait for those 3 cards. When like really you just accept a defeat, like let your opponent draw 3 cards and then just start casting spells. You know, like that Aether Vial should have come in a long time ago.
Yeah, one of the keys to playing against standstill is knowing when to break it, and often that time is just during your opponent's end step, so that the 3 cards they get, they'll have to discard. And you kind of mitigate that raw card advantage gained by drawing 3 cards and turn it into more of a sift, draw 3, discard 3 if you're lucky enough to get them on the 7 cards.
Definitely.
And now Chris just
free to
generating lots of mana
spend all those cards and just like hemorrhage out Nick's hand. And you can see this Mangara sitting here with a Caracas in play. I mean, hell, that's a combo, but it's not really going to pan out here because I'm pretty sure Chris can find a way to destroy it.
He's got a pithing needle in his hand, but it's probably naming the vial. I don't think he's too stressed about.
Is that another curse scroll coming down?
It is a second curse scroll. You can see the Dark Ritual here powering out the Hindu-Direct, which did make Nick discard 2 cards, but it was 2 Force of Wills. Oh, here we go. Another Force of Will on that curse scroll.
He does not want to.
Not interested in taking 4 return, it seems.
He sees the wear and tear in his hand as the only card, and he's like, well, I cannot have 2 scrolls out.
Yeah,
so
2 scrolls. 2 scrolls too many, some would say.
That's right.
And Nick agrees with me there. The 2 scrolls is pushing the line, I feel.
Oh my gosh.
And now we're going to see a needle here, which is probably going to shut off that their Aether Vial.
I mean, he just doesn't have any other answers to Aether Vial outside of the needle.
No,
I don't imagine.
Chris's hand is entirely swamps at this point, so Curse Scroll is going to get the job
and truly
done.
online.
Yep.
Yep.
So he's like, yep. You can see the defeat in Nick's hands as he throws up to go, yeah man, go for it. You're not seeing a third Force of Will in that one card. Alright.
Now there is some consideration on Nick's part to just Caracas it. And,
Yeah.
but that honestly doesn't achieve much. It just puts it back in his hand, and he doesn't really gain a lot of advantage like that.
Chris finally getting to attack with the Mishra's Factory.
Yep. Oh, a needle. Oh no, meddling mage. Meddling mage, unfortunately, not gonna work out here. As Curse Scroll is just gonna blast it to death.
I really hope he names Curse Scroll anyway. Just say, I do not want to see a second one.
Yeah, and honestly, if he had a few more life points, maybe he would be able to stall out long enough to just get that red mana to take out the Curse Scroll, and maybe then his creatures will be able to live. But honestly, against the Nether Spirit, against the double Mistress Factory, those life points aren't really going to matter. And you see a Wasteland here, just being able to just take out one of those Mutavaults. There's no real action going on here.
Do you think with Nick's mana bases, possibly better to maybe go with Disenchant or something instead of a Wear and Tear?
Look, maybe just the mana base needs reworking in order to support the Wear Tear just a little bit better.
It's quite a shame. Like, he's got it there; it's ready to go.
Maybe I'm sure there's a wizard that disenchants. In fact, there is actually a wizard a spell shaper that disenchants. Maybe it isn't a wizard. Maybe it's a shaman of some kind. But you can see Chris showing the hand for the rubbing, naming Swamp, and having his hand be 4 swamps and a Smallpox, and Smallpox getting hit.
So unfortunately, he didn't get that win.
Oh, he's got that volcanic island.
Hello.
Oh boy, here we go. He could take out
bet
that
he's happy
Curse
to see
Scroll.
that.
Yeah, he would be ecstatic. Even though he's dead next turn
He's dead on
regardless.
board, yeah.
But I mean, it's pretty. I don't know why we're tapping that Mutavault, but I guess it doesn't actually matter. Well, yeah, Chris has a Wasteland, so it does actually matter a fair amount. But oh no, we've just seen. Yeah, well, he can only really cast it for 1, so he can't. Unfortunately, can't pay the fuse there without a legal enchantment target.
I feel. It's
We're just gonna get
yeah.
Smallpox here. He's gonna go to 1, and then we're gonna.
I assume sack a creature.
Just taste it basically.
Mm-hmm. Nothing in hand.
All right, this is a pretty miserable matchup for Nick here. Unless he can stick that Aether Vial and not get it Pithy Needled, he's kind of out of luck.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can see Chris pulling out the Pithy Needle for the Robins. You know, this is the card that.
I mean,
It's the card that really got you good. You can see Nick on -39. He's feeling bad about this.
Yeah, that's right.
I mean, probably some unfamiliar. If I can speak English.
Yeah.
Probably a bit unfamiliar with the matchup. Making some interesting sideboarding decisions with very little information.
It's
just
tough,
didn't work
it's
out
tough
for
to
him.
just in the dark, especially with the mono black deck playing so many swamps. You kind of feel like you're in the dark even more.
Yeah.
You just have no idea what's going on. And Legacy is one of those formats where everything's going to surprise you most of the time. Your opponent plays, the Dark and Aether Mage. You got to read it 12 times. You have no idea what's wizard cycling. Who could ever really know? I mean, honestly.
I think it was a valiant effort regardless, knowing that he had the idea in his head and he made the brew and he brought it to in a Legacy.
Yeah, Legacy is one of those formats that although it cops a lot of slack for being mono Brainstorm, you can see here you can play a blue deck and you can not play Brainstorm.
Probably a good idea if you had one, but or 4, but who knows?
Yeah.
It's also, in my eyes, we've got Legacy as fairly just archetypal. There's a list and you can pick from that and you can change it up as much as you want.
Yeah.
It's mostly, you just look on top 8 and just net deck from there. But Nick made this himself, so.
One direction I could see him definitely taking this deck is definitely just playing Chalice of the Void. Because if you're not playing Brainstorm, the only thing you've got to really worry about with Chalice is Aether Vial, and they kind of sequence well. You can play the Aether Vial first before you play the Chalice, and even with Cavern of Souls, you can just play Cavern of Souls Curse Catcher. Just get through that Chalice.
Yeah. I really like the idea of a Chalice of the Void, but at what point do you just turn it into a Merfolk shell and then just jam wizards in there instead?
Yeah, maybe.
Ain't nothing wrong with that.
Ain't nothing wrong with that. We've definitely seen Fish be an effective strategy.
Yeah. All right. Well, that was game 1. Stick around, and we'll bring up game 2 soon. Match 2.